I don't believe in God. I know God.
I love me some Jesus.
You're doing too much.
That's crazy. That's on the next episode.
It's the moon reading.
I rock with you, Yaya.
It's all love.
They better listen to this advice. We good.
You crazy girl.
This is what this show is about, all right? We
Put
keep
the
it real.
real and real talk. The God in God talk.
And that's a wrap.
Today is Tuesday, April 16th, and you're listening to Real Talk on God Talk, a podcast for people who skip church for brunch on Sundays.
Hey, what's up, listeners? What's up, Yaya? How you feeling? How you living?
Hey, listeners. Hey, Truth. I'm okay.
Yeah.
That was short, right? I'm okay, period.
Moving on into the rundown.
I know. No. How am I, really? It's been ongoing. You all have been following our journey towards graduation and the end of the year.
I feel like we need a TV show now.
Right. I'm obsessed, but that's really what's going on.
Yeah, nah, same here. Just trying to get everything in order, trying to manage the stress level. You know how that goes. But other than that, really excited about how the podcast is going, excited about all like the feedback that we got for last week's episode or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we just appreciate all the love. Like, thank y'all for always sending us love and telling us what y'all think about the episodes. We do want to hear your feedback. That's how we decide like what we really want to talk about.
Right. So this might be far left field, but something actually is on my mind this week.
Oh, God.
I'm over wearing bras. Like, I'm
well,
over
girl, let
it.
them free.
No, I'm serious. Like,
Yeah.
they're super uncomfortable. They are super expensive. I am grown. Like, I'm grown, and I still need my mom to go bra shopping with me because
You can't figure out your size
they
yet.
just bring me, like, it just brings me so much anxiety. And, like, when I
Really?
come home, like,
Yeah.
a lot of you ladies out there, or fellas, if you wear bras, you know, do your thing,
Hey.
whatever. First thing I do is like, oh my God, I gotta
Yes.
come home and take off my bra. Ugh. And it's like, why in the year of our Lord 2019 am I wearing this contraption to like hold my breasts in a cage? Like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, a part of me feels like I'm a modern woman.
That's
I
right.
can do anything I want. I
right.
can go braless. Like,
You
I
walk
don't
around
need
here
to.
with them things flapping. Go ahead, girl.
But then there's the other part of me that's
Yeah.
like, what are people gonna think? How are my
Mm.
clothes gonna look? You know?
Yeah.
And so I'm struggling because I feel like it's like wearing a corset or like it's like, you know, one of
Facts,
those
though.
things. Like, why am I doing this?
And you are so right that it is hella expensive, okay? Listen, if it's going to be that expensive, it should at least be comfortable.
or be on the outside. If I'm be paying money, people need to be seeing this.
You right, though. You absolutely right.
And so that's my little 2 seconds of struggle. I'm tired of brasiers.
I hear you on that. All right, let's get into a rundown of what you can expect for this episode. In God in the World, we'll be discussing the idea of collective trauma. This month, rapper Nipsey Hussle was brutally killed, and the culture is grieving hard. We'll be looking at ways for us to cope with the grief and effects of collective trauma that we inhabit from experiencing events like this.
Then we'll be discussing the Real Talk question of the week. Paper chasing preachers. Is that a thing now? When we hear the term prosperity gospel, many of us think of televangelists like Creflo and Tammy Dollar or Joel Osteen. But honestly, those are the icons of our parents' generation. What about the new generation of rich and prominent Christians who show off their baller and sometimes lavish lifestyles on YouTube and IG while bringing people to God? If God promises financial wealth to the faithful, what about the nearly 100 million people at or near the poverty line in the U.S.? Are they just not praying hard enough?
Then, Yaya will take us through the moon reading, just in time to prepare for the April 19th full moon.
And finally, for community pastoral care, we'll be responding to a listener who wants to know, what do we do when a relationship with a parent is damaged beyond repair? On March 31st, Los Angeles rapper and community leader Nipsey Hussle was murdered outside of his business on Crenshaw Avenue. Nipsey was a talented artist, family man, and an inspiring figure to many. His funeral service was held at the Staples Center in LA, where the Lakers play, and broadcast on BT. Prior to his death, I personally wasn't very familiar with his music or even his community work. However, when a man can fill out the Staples Center, bring together rival LA gangs like the Bloods and Crips for a walk of unity and peace, and just cause such a massive outpouring of love and respect, I know it was more than just the music or the status. That feeling of loss that people are so affected about is what he represents. Nipsey Hussle inspired disenfranchised people to feel as if they were valuable, that their communities, black and brown communities, were worth investment and care. And to see him shot down and to witness the grief of this community and all of his loved ones, it really struck a nerve in the culture. People are taking it hard.
Absolutely. And he's done so much for his community. There's like videos on like all social media of like just the things he would do, like for the construction workers that were outside. He would go give them like food or yeah, often like even give them like clothes, you know, if they needed, just like here, you know, as like thank you for everything you're doing in the neighborhood, like, and like thanking them for their work. And a lot of like one particular story came out where the gentleman who's a construction worker, he said he didn't even know that he was a rapper, and he didn't know who he was until um he was pronounced dead, and he saw like, and he was like, what is the thing about who always comes out thanking us for our work, and you know, like he was that type of guy. And yeah, it's just so sad to see him like gone so soon, and when he has like a family and everything, you know, and he was like really doing so much, and it was just like his life was cut short. And, you know, at the same time, just this year alone, according to like ABC News, we've witnessed at least one mass shooting a month since 2018. And I don't even have to say, right? There have been countless black and brown people like Stephon Clark and Antoine Rose killed by police brutality, only to receive no justice. And then, not to mention, witnessing the horrors of babies ripped from the arms of their parents at the border. There's so much collective trauma going on right now.
That is a fact. It's like, you know, I feel overloaded.
Yeah.
I feel like it's all just too much. It's like thing after thing after
Yep.
thing after thing. And it's like constantly being in a state of shock and sadness. And it's like to the point where I don't even know how to respond sometimes. Like when I hear that something else happened, someone else was killed, another tragedy,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, how many tears,
Yeah.
how much tears do I have to cry?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that that's part of the reason why Nipsey Hussle's death and public funeral caused such an outpouring.
Yeah.
It's like, what he did as an individual was amazing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the stories that you said, the personal stories that you said
Yeah.
about, like, you know, saying thank you to people in the community and investing in the community. Like, I think he like set up these tech centers and like was bringing
Yeah,
like
the STEM
massive amounts
yeah.
of money into the community. And so it's like he did such amazing things, but what he represented, his death, I think, like gave us a space to just breathe and cry and really
Yeah.
grieve for him, yes, but for everything that's going on, you
yeah.
know. And I believe that symbols matter.
Yeah.
And Nipsey's death was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, that's
like you
exactly
let one
what it
tear
was.
out and it all just
Open the
comes,
floodgates.
like, you know, tumbling out as a way for us to express our grief and pain of collective trauma.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, collective trauma, you know, we've been saying that, and it's basically a traumatic psychological effect that is shared by a group of people of any size, and it can include an entire society. And so traumatic events that are witnessed by an entire society can actually stir up collective sentiment or feelings, like what we're seeing with Nipsey Hussle. And this often results in a shift in that society's culture and mass action. In his article, Collective Trauma and the Social Construction of Meaning, psychologist Gilad Hirschberger says collective trauma is a cataclysmic event that shatters the basic fabric of society. Aside from the horrific loss of life, collective trauma is also a crisis of meaning.
That's really deep. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like collectively, like not even on an individual level.
Right.
but to be at a crisis of meaning. Like, what does it mean? Because I feel like on one hand, it's like we can look at the death of someone like Nipsey Hussle and say,
Yeah.
I didn't know him personally.
Right.
Like, and we can look at ourselves and say, it's sad, but I shouldn't be feeling this sad about it.
Right.
But what does it mean when someone that is doing such wonderful things for the community, a Black man, can be at that height and be shot down and taken away from us? And like, what does it say, not just about him and his story, but about all of us?
Right.
Like that, I think that for me, that is like the crux of collective trauma and why it's so hard, because we can look at it and be like, I shouldn't feel so bad. I shouldn't feel so sad.
Right.
I don't know him personally, but it's all of us. It's like
Right.
our general like interpsychic feeling.
Yeah, and it's that like you said, even if you didn't know him personally, it's like you may have known someone like him, and just because they didn't have the same platform, right, they may not get the same like response, but it was kind of like it allowed like the culture and the community to feel it in a very public way. It was just like it was like finally okay to feel,
Yes.
and just let all that out. And so, Dr. Joy Jacobs from Psychology Today wrote about 5 strategies for coping with collective trauma, and that's what we want to share with all of y'all today.
So one strategy, get support, whether that's therapy, praying together, reaching out to your community. If you've been wanting to get back into church and you've just been procrastinating on it, now might be the time. If you've been wanting to get back active again in your Greek organization or whatever, now's the time to do it. Sometimes we don't know how to deal with feeling overwhelmed by our feelings. And so our first reaction is to isolate. Instead of reaching out, we just kind of like get smaller into ourselves. But, recognize that. And instead of going inward, now's the time to move deeper into community with the people who can hold you and support you.
We're going to combine 2, 3, and 4. And those are get involved, be of service, and take responsibility. If you find yourself feeling down, the best way to get out of a negative mindset is to reach out and help others. Someone like Nipsey has such an impact because of the way he served his community. So keep his legacy alive by doing the same thing, right? Volunteer, mentor, give back as a way to constructively deal with your feelings.
And finally, take a break. Dr. Jacobs says, sometimes we just need to chill out and take our mind off of everything. This allows your nervous system to relax. Reactive decisions are often not the best ones. Remove any sense of urgency, barring a true emergency, to give yourself a break. I think it's okay to take a little hiatus from social media, where the images of violence and trauma are like flowing towards us constantly. The weather's getting warmer, finally, hopefully. It's time to get outside, move our bodies, get some fresh air, and maybe take our eyes away from the train wreck that is constantly coming towards us. Collective trauma is a real thing. Rest in power to Nipsey Hussle, and our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and to all of you as well. We're all dealing with some real stuff every day. We hope that Real Talk and God Talk can be a place for you to get some support, some community, somewhere to be held. So, on to the Real Talk question of the week.
Dun dun dun.
Paper chasing pastors.
Ooh,
Is
child.
that like a thing now? So, Truth and I were talking. We always are just talking SHIT.
Right.
And she was telling me about going through IG and coming across this really interesting site. So, Truth, why don't you story time to people?
All right, so it's story time. So yeah, I was going through Instagram and I came across this account called Preachers and Sneakers, right? And the first thing I thought of, I was like, well, what's this? It grabbed my attention because the name, I was like, Preachers and Sneakers. Anything with preachers, I'm there. I'm like, I want to know all the tea. So I was there. And the page is basically set up to kind of showcase like the footwear that these preachers are like wearing, right? So it's not some regular like
These ain't
These
Payless
ain't Payless
sneakers.
sneakers, right? Exactly. So these are like Yeezys, Gucci sneakers, like some real official stuff. A lot of the sneakers that were actually posted are very hard to find. So they're like you're spending a good amount of
Oh,
money.
we talking
on them.
exclusive.
Yeah, a lot
Oh,
of
like
them.
sneakerheads.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
okay.
exactly. So real legit stuff, right? So a little backstory on like the person who created this account. I was reading in like one of the interviews. They said like he had posted something like that on his personal page, and he got such a good feedback that he was like, well, I don't want to put all of this on my personal page, so I'll just create a different account. And like he thought like only him and like a couple of his friends would find it like interesting, and he didn't think that it would blow up as much as it did. And like just to give y'all a little taste, if I'm sure most of y'all following it, but one of the posts on there is highlighting pastors like Pastor John Gray in like 5,600 Yeezy Red Octobers, and he got like funny little captions, and the caption there is like Pastor John Gray stepping out something major in the evangelical Red October.
He got me on the floor, ye evangelical.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like then he's posting a bunch of other pastors. Now, it's not like he's sneaking and taking these pics himself. These are actually pictures that were on these pastors' accounts already. So he's just reposting them. Right? And so he reposts a picture of the pastor, highlights the sneakers that they have, and then he puts another picture of the price of the sneakers.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah,
That's where it gets a little dicey, right? You know,
exactly.
Americans don't like talking about money.
Exactly. And so, you know, the many sides of this whole thing came out, and I was just commenting to Yaya about it because I was like, yo, look at all these pastors. They got the Yeezys, the Gucci's, this, that, and the third. And yeah, it was just interesting. And so when Yaya checked it out, Yaya had her own opinion on it.
So what I think is interesting about the account, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, they had me crying with the tagline, "The Lord works in mysterious colorways." I said, y'all are foolish, right? So I'm like, okay, it's a little funny. Let me check it out.
Yeah.
So what I think is funny or interesting about the account is that the creator doesn't actually condemn the pastors for their expensive taste in shoes.
Right. Nor celebrate it.
Right. He doesn't
Very
celebrate
neutral.
it. He does, or he or she is he?
Is
Okay.
he, yeah.
Or they. He doesn't celebrate it. He doesn't condemn it. He just kind of like
he
puts
just
it
put
out there.
Yeah.
Right? And so he kind of like allows us to come to our own conclusion as to whether we admire these expensive sneakers or we're like, oh, you're a pastor.
Yeah.
You know, shouldn't you have something a little more modest or whatever?
Yeah.
And so I thought that was interesting. But what I think is probably even funnier is that when Truth and I came to talk about it, we actually ended up on different ends of the argument about whether or not it was appropriate for men and women of God to drip that hard.
Right?
And so my personal opinion is that as long as you are not using church funds on any level, like no level, should you be using anybody's funds but your own. But if you got it, flaunt it. Like I I know, right? But I just feel like when you live in this contemporary culture and you want to reach out to young demographics.
You want to be hip happening, right?
Right. You want to be hip. You want to be happening. Well, being hip and happening means that you about to have $5,000 Yeezy Red Octobers. That's hip and happening, right? Clearly, I'm not that hip or happening, but that's neither here nor there. And so I just feel like it's harmless, I guess. Like, and this is my real caveat. You cannot be using any type of unscrupulous church funds.
Yeah.
At all, under any circumstance. But beyond that, I feel like it's harmless. We all spend our money in all types of ways. And if your thing is sneakers, better sneakers than cocaine and prostitutes, right? Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're right, though. You're right. Yeah, so I think my issue with the concepts, right, or not the concepts, but the reality of these preachers having these like $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 like exclusive sneakers was like, yo, you're a pastor. and I think I totally get where you're coming from. It's like, yo, if you got it and as long as you're not using like church funds for that, okay. But then again, like there's no way of like a church member actually knowing that, right? And then two, it was giving me a lot of like prosperity gospel vibes because we were pointing so much at like the material wealth of it. So a pastor, like for me, a pastor who's spending 5 G's on something, you mean to tell me you couldn't find nothing in your church or no one in your church that 5 G's could have helped? You know what I mean? So like that's for me is where the line is like, and I get it where like you should be able to have and dress however you like, but I think there should be some moderation. And particularly because a lot of these things end up targeting our Black and brown communities. Like to go out there and spend like 5 G's that you ain't got. I mean,
right. And it's like so I actually hear you on that. So the first thing that you said that I really resonate with is like, you might not be using church funds, but everybody looking at you doesn't know that.
Right.
And there's already a stigma in our communities that says these pastors come in and they take your tithe and they, XYZ. And it's like, why are you being irresponsible and perpetuating that?
Right.
And also, as I do agree with you, as a leader, if your community is looking at you and you are the level of success, is spending your money on sneakers how you want to model the best way to use your money? Like,
for real. There's so many other things that I feel like pastors could do with that in teaching even financial literacy to our communities.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it was, but it did give me a lot of like prosperity gospel vibes, like I was telling you before. And it was more because I had told you, I was like, I want to listen to what they're preaching then. How do you reconcile that of like being up there on a platform with, $8,000 sneakers, and it don't even stop at the sneakers. He's just highlighting the sneakers.
Yeah, I done seen
the whole
Gucci tracksuits, full Supreme. These Supreme stickers are $30, mind you, and it's like, if a little sticker decal is $30, how much does your full Supreme outfit cost? And like, just what's the message that you're sending? So the question is, what's the message that you're sending, right? And so it's funny. Truth says that the pastors are giving her prosperity gospel vibes. And we thought it would be a good opportunity to talk to you all, the Real Talk and God Talk community, about the prosperity gospel. Because this conversation is less about the sneakers itself or the shopping itself, and more about a questioning of the preaching or theology that, in short, says God rewards the faithful with financial success.
Right.
Why do so many people believe in it and preach it? And why do so many theologians condemn it?
All right, so let's start by talking about what exactly the prosperity gospel is. So, Joe Carter from the gospelcoalition.org says the prosperity gospel, which is also known as the health and wealth gospel or the word of faith movement, is a perversion of the gospel of Jesus that claims that God rewards increases in faith with increases in health and or wealth.
So I'm going to say the word perversion, that's Joe Carter's words.
Yeah, exactly.
And so,
take it for what it is. Right. If I had to wrap up the prosperity gospel, it's basically when the Catholics were selling like
indulgences.
Yes, thank you. And I kind of feel like it's a version of that.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know what that is the idea that you can kind of like basically like
buy your way
into heaven. Except I guess I look at it as kind of like the flip side. Like it's if I had to wrap up what the prosperity gospel is to me, it is the preaching that if you pray hard enough, if you're faithful enough, if you do all the right things, and if you honor God, God will honor you, particularly and specifically with money, wealth, and financial success.
Yeah. And if you don't have any material success, then something is wrong with your faith.
Right.
That's the connection.
That is the connection.
Yeah, that's the connection. Right. Yeah. So the Gospel Coalition, right? David W. Jones outlines 5 errors about the prosperity gospel, right? And so the first one is the Abrahamic covenant is a means to material entitlement. The prosperity gospel teaches that the primary purposes of the Abrahamic covenant was for God to bless Abraham with just material things. So when God blesses Abraham, when he says your descendants will be as numerous as the stars in the sky, and like all those other blessings that God gave unto Abraham and his descendants, it basically has been twisted to mean that the blessings are only to be material. So that's one.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's hard. Wild. Yeah. So like it's hard for me because I do not believe that a blessing is necessarily a material blessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just I don't believe
Yeah.
that. But it's also like I just think about it, and I just gotta put it out there because y'all know I'm always thinking about every side to things.
Yeah.
I believe that our God is an abundant God,
Yeah.
and like my personal theology is one of God working within, like God existing and working within this wide world. And there's
Yeah.
so many different types of flowers and people and fingerprints and, you know, DNA types. And like,
Yeah.
there's just so much abundance and so much in the world that I truly believe God provides for us.
Yeah.
Like, and provides abundance and wealth. I don't think that wealth necessarily equates to like what our society says is material wealth and richness,
Right.
but I personally believe that there's entitlement, not necessarily material entitlement. And
Yeah.
so like there's some nuance there. There's some space there to kind of think about, like when you're hearing these preachers preach wealth and abundance and all these things. It's like, yes, but what do our values say as to the definition of these things?
Also, it's definitely not that God is only out here blessing Christians.
Mhm.
That's first and foremost. Like I definitely don't believe that God is only out here blessing Christians. For me, God is bigger than Christianity, and God's people are all people. You know, so at that the fact that along with this comes also a belief that you have to be a Christian in order to cash in these material wealth
Right.
is like absurd to me also.
Right. Okay, so next on the list of how we can identify the prosperity gospel is Jesus's atonement extends to the sin of material poverty.
That whole statement.
I'm offended by
that whole statement. That whole statement is wrong because it is not addressing the fact that poverty is coming from systems that are actually in place.
Right.
So it doesn't call the systems sins, but it says the actual being like poor is a sin. Yeah.
That to me that is so sick.
Yeah.
Like
that's a sin in itself, what you're saying right there.
Right.
Like,
it's like when I think of prosperity gospel, I think a part of the issue with me is it is a particularly, it doesn't only exist in America, but the
Yeah.
idea and the ideals of it began in the United States. And
Yeah.
it's a particularly American way of buying into capitalism.
Of course.
That says, like, you know, this Puritan work ethic. Like if you work hard and you pull yourself up from your bootstraps, you'll make it, and
You'll
the way
be
that you
somebody
show
in
that you make
life.
it is by what you can consume and what you can buy.
Mhm.
And it's like the issue with the idea that material poverty is a sin, like Truth said, like it doesn't call out the systems that exploit people. It's like, you know, you buy into this capitalism wholeheartedly without thinking about, it's like you're punishing the people that are looking to this to be uplifted. It's
Right.
like, why do I why would I believe in this? Why do I want to hear
Mhm.
that my prayers can bring me wealth? If you're already wealthy, you know, that's great.
Right.
But it's the poor that need this.
Yeah.
And then to further like marginalize them and blame them and say that their poverty is a sin, like that's
Mhm.
just real messed up.
And so the third one is Christians give and tithe in order to gain material compensation from God. I've heard this so many times, and I've even heard it in places where the prosperity gospel is not like the it thing at the particular church. So I've heard it in many churches in like, yes, you should tithe so that God can bless you. And you know, that actually is like part of the prosperity gospel, even if like the churches don't know it. Instead of like just say what you need the money for. You need the money to keep the lights on. You need the money to pay the mortgage. You know what I mean? Like I think people understand the concept that a church building is being rented or is being mortgaged out or whatever it is, and that it has expenses. But I think always telling people that you have to give in order so that you can be blessed and using that, I think that's inaccurate. Imagine someone who is already like very tight for money and feeling like they have to give whatever little bit they have in order to continue to be blessed. and then they leave off in an even worse position. Like, I don't think that's responsible from a church to do, you know?
So I'm not sure how I'm not sure where I land on this
Yeah.
one, because I do believe that it is a law of the universe that the more you give, the more you get. Just period.
Of course, yeah.
No, outside of tithing, just
Yeah.
and so that's wonderful, but I don't think that the motivation in your heart for giving can be getting in order for that law of the universe to work.
Yes.
And so I think where my issue comes in is if a church or if a particular pastor is preaching tithe now and as a direct result of your tithing, then you will be,
blessed,
financially blessed in this way. Like, you're making it sound like it's a 1-to-1 correlation. And you are going to cause a crisis in faith in people when that does not happen.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I think that that's my issue with it. Yeah. I'm sure eventually we'll have a show on tithing, and so we can get real deep into the different issues and meanings of tithing. But just in this case, I think that idea of a 1-to-1 correlation, I think is false. I think you're setting up false hope.
Absolutely.
And a big letdown.
And then you could also be putting people in a worse financial situation.
Right.
Just so that they can keep giving, because they then feel like they get like a guilt trip if they don't give, you know what I mean? And that's not right either. You can't do that to people.
All right. Number 4. So we can recognize the prosperity gospel by the idea that faith is a self-generated spiritual force that leads to prosperity.
This makes it sound like a third person. It's just out here with like just doing stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand this one.
What's it? Well, I think it's that it's not that your faith has to be like worked on, but more that you feed it. It comes with positive words that you say, or like you're claiming it.
Yeah. So if you claim it, if your faith is strong enough, if you can feed your faith, then after you do that, faith is gonna open the floodgates of wealth. And so, okay.
Yeah, so it's more like, I'm gonna wake up every morning, I'm gonna say, yo, I want a Lamborghini. You know what
I mean? you laughing, I want a Lamborghini.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and so that's how I'm gonna feed my faith, because when God finally give me that Lamborghini, well, then my faith is being fed, because what I have been asking for has been granted. So it's kind of like that. You know what I mean? Man, wow, like
I think for me, a part of what makes that like so problematic, or like that line of thinking, is like it doesn't take into account just the human nature and the way of the world of suffering.
Absolutely.
So many people are suffering, have suffered throughout history, will continue to suffer. Suffering doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. It's like it's a state of the world. And it's like, to claim that your faith, by feeding your faith, that is what leads to prosperity. It's like a kick in the nuts to everybody out here who is like truly suffering. And faith is not like, even if you think of like Job, it doesn't matter how faithful he was. He was the most faithful person.
Right.
He was tested. He was made to suffer. Right. And there was no amount of positive thinking that was about to bring him out of that.
My man Job, his wife left him, okay? He done lost his kid.
Right.
And he still decided to remain faithful, right?
Right.
Which is like,
but that didn't make his trials end.
Right, exactly.
It was a testament to his faith for the sake of faith. Exactly. His faith for the sake of loving God, of honoring God. Right. And it's like, it just creates this just false promise that everything's gonna be okay,
and like a false reality of a world that we live in. As long as you're saying positive things, nothing is ever gonna touch you.
Right.
It's like,
as if there's not mass incarceration, as if there's not a capitalist system that needs an underclass.
Right.
And so if you're a part of that underclass, are you supposed to pray it away?
Right. Exactly. And then again, like, we want to make clear that a lot of this is directly in correlation with material gain,
right?
Because that is what the prosperity gospel like feeds itself off. It's very different than, I know we were talking about this earlier, where a lot of people want to put people who pray for healing as part of prosperity gospel. I personally do not think that is so, because people who are praying for healing from an illness, they are getting just like their health back, right? But it's not a material thing that they're also gaining with it. And that is the difference. Like the prosperity gospel is really for material, like wealth, and to like up your status, it's for your bank account.
Right.
Because for me, people who pray if they're sick and they pray to be healed, something in them has done this before,
right?
That they have their faith in that,
and you're praying for restoration,
exactly, of your body,
to wholeness,
absolutely.
And so I agree with you. I think that is a kind of a different category.
Yeah. And so the final one, like a way that you can spot the prosperity gospel is that prayer is a tool to force God to grant prosperity.
Hate to break it to you, y'all. I can't force God to do not a damn thing.
Not happening. Denied. So, yeah. Completely false.
Yeah.
I think prayer to me is a communication with God. And it's a way where that line of communication can go both ways, right? As it should, because it's a conversation, right? For me, it's a conversation. But in no way, shape, or form do I feel that I can bend God to my will to do what I want God to do, which I think is still different from when I ask for God favor in a situation, or for when I tell God like what my needs may be. And again, the difference is the material, because there's a difference in asking like, please help me pay my bills this month. Like, show me to be smart with my money so that I can do this, as opposed to let me wake up and have 10 G's on my on my like night dresser. You know what I mean? Like that, completely different. It is this material and that is what's so sneaky about the prosperity gospel, is that is these little differences.
Like what I'm hearing you say is like, as a Christian or a person of faith or a spiritual person, whatever, what is it that you are valuing?
Yeah.
Like to pray for something like prosperity. Are you praying for the wellness of your family, of closeness, of connection? Are you praying to do good, to do God's will? Are you praying for your needs to be met? Or are you praying for excess? Are you buying into this capitalist system and saying, what prosperity means is the ability to be more of a consumer.
Right.
And it's like, I'm not putting no shots out there because your girl wants money. God does not want me to be broke. I know that for a fact.
God made me too bougie to be broke.
But it's like, it's a question of your values, of what you buy into, like the prosperity gospel, it's real insidious. Like like you said, it really sneaks up on you because like there are some parts of it that I believe. I believe that we live in an abundant world in which there's more than enough for everyone. Like on a real practical level, there's more than enough food on earth for everyone. There's more than enough materials on earth that everyone can have a home. There does not need to be any homeless people. And yet there's 1% billionaires out here who are hoarding all of the abundance that God has given us so that some people can't have.
Right.
And in your leadership role in a church or in a community, if what you're preaching is success means the ability to buy a fancy car and get some poppin' sneakers, that's not enough. That means that you buy into the value system that says we hoard and that just has to be something more. And so I don't think anything is wrong with liking nice things. I love nice things. I'm a luxurious ass bitch. But I think that your value, like you have to be aware of what you're praying, what you're saying, what's coming to you, because it all sounds good, but I think to be a spiritually mature person, you have to really dissect it and consider it and ask yourself where you stand.
Yeah, and it's also about like, what can you do if you do come into an abundance, right? Because the abundance, if it is an abundance, is because it's more than enough for you and it's enough for you to extend as well.
Boom.
And I think that's the part that the prosperity gospel misses, because that gospel is there's just more than enough for me.
For me.
It's all for me, And it's like, so yeah, you like what you like, but at what point when you have an abundance, is it your responsibility to then reach out to those around you?
And not only reach out, because it's so funny to like kind of come full circle back to the preachers and sneakers stuff. Yeah. It's like, so there's all that preachers and sneakers, there's that pastor, the guy, John Gray,
Yeah.
who bought his wife this expensive $200,000 Lamborghini, and it's like, people are coming at his neck, right?
Of course.
They were coming at his neck saying, how could you do that? Why would you do that? And his response is, "This is my money. I work for. This is what I'm doing." And it's like, I agree with that logic on one level, but what is our responsibility as leaders? Like, it's one thing for you to be like a lay church person just in the crowd.
Yeah.
But as a leader, to say, this is what I choose to spend my money on.
Right.
Like, not for nothing, a lot of these clothes are made in sweatshop
Of
laborers
course.
by like little kids.
For like
bad
2
for the
cents
environment,
an hour or
like,
a day.
right?
It's
like terrible for the environment. It's you're taking money out of your community, and a lot of times spending money on Gucci when you could be feeding small businesses. There's designers in your own community. And so, like, as a leader, what does it mean that God has given you abundance, and the way that you choose to spend it is just so
it's trash.
Thank you, Truth. Trash. I was looking for the perfect word, and trash is it. Yes.
Yeah, it's like it's just ridiculous to be able to have that type of platform and really just look out for your own small circle, and that's it. And not, and like, for me, I feel like that goes against everything the gospel is about. Like, and I was thinking about this earlier. Like, I get when the pastor is saying, it's my money, I worked for it and stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, but you, in a sense, you are still working off the backbone of the gospel. So it's like you're prostituting the gospel in order for it to benefit you. So it's like, how I don't understand how some of these pastors are okay with that. I don't know.
Truth is not with it, has not been with it since conversation one. Like,
No.
before we turned on these mics and we first even talked about this, she has not been with
not
it.
with it.
But I don't know, y'all. When y'all see me with my Balenciagas on, don't ask me no questions. just look the other way.
Exactly. Don't be taking no screen pics.
Right. Don't be screenshotting my stuff. Just
we
know.
gonna catch y'all young preachers and sneakers. They don't catch me with my little New Balance. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot to think about, right? Because it ultimately comes down to what is your responsibility. What do you feel your responsibility is to your community and to this platform that you've been given?
Yeah. So let's keep the conversation going. Tell us what you think. We want to know, like, a lot of people believe that God has granted them favor, material favor, through their faith. Do you believe that? Where do you draw the line? What do you think about the preachers and sneakers? What do you think about this Pastor John Gray buying his wife a $200,000 Lamborghini? What do you think about
Can't
it all?
even give it back. It's a decrease in value.
See, I told you, truth is not with it.
I'm just not with it.
Right. But yeah, let us know what you think.
Yeah, and follow us on Instagram at Real Talk on God Talk, and let's keep this conversation going. To keep the conversation going, tell us what you think by following us on Instagram or Twitter at Real Talk on God Talk.
Hey, beautiful people. Today is Tuesday, April 16th, and you're listening to Keeping Time with Yaya. We are headed into Holy Week. Ooh, prime time for all you Christians out there, right? Top 10. Friday, April 19th is Good Friday, leading into Easter Sunday, which is going to be Sunday, April 21st. We're also heading into Passover season for our Jewish brothers and sisters. Passover begins April 19th and ends on April 27th. And for you non-religious peeps out there, April 22nd is Earth Day, so let's celebrate Mother Earth. It's time for the moon reading. We're looking forward to the full moon on April 19th, known as the full pink moon. As it gets warmer, it's a good time for us to take a walk at night, using your discretion in terms of safety, of course. Let the rays of the moon rest on you as you think of your intentions for the upcoming months.
Thank you, Yaya. Always making sure we're right around here with all our dates and moon reading. All right, so this week for Community Pastoral Care, we're going to be responding to a listener who hit us up and has a question for us. It said, hey, I was wondering if you can talk about toxic family and what God says about cutting off connection with them. I feel like many people have different opinions about it. So I would be happy if you guys talk about it. Thank you. So
Okay.
polite. So polite.
Okay, listener.
Thank you for your question, listener. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So I don't think that the Bible particularly says anything about like cutting off toxic family
Thou
members.
shalt cut off.
Right.
Right.
So we can start there with
Yeah.
this is just our sense and what's our sense of experience. So I listened to this guru, this Indian guru, Sadhguru. He talks about the fact that like humans are born into our biological identity. We're born into these families, right? They take care of us, they nurture us, and you know, when we're born, I'm the daughter of so and so, the sister of so and so,
Right.
you know? But as we mature spiritually, as we mature, period, we go out into the world and we form these other identities. We
Yeah.
gain friends, we get a job, you know, we do all these things.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how like some of the most spiritually mature people, monks and nuns and ascetics, people that go off into the wilderness and you
Yeah.
know devote themselves to God, they're able to let go of their biological identity and devote themselves fully to their spiritual identity. And, you know, he wasn't claiming that everyone should do that,
Right.
but he was just kind of highlighting the fact that, like, we have these different identities and the biological, like, who we came into this world related to, that's just the first level.
Right.
You know? And so, in response to your question about cutting off toxic family members or how to deal with toxic family members, I personally believe that one, it's really a matter of what is the relationship, what is the toxicity, as to whether you should try to reconcile or cut them off completely. But I think that it is okay to move beyond that first level of biological identity. If your parent or your family member is harming you, um, if they were harming you to a point where it's unhealthy, they're like truly hurting you, I think that you can either cut them off, modify the relationship, but I don't think that God intends for you to stay in a place of harm, whether it's you're experiencing spiritual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, whatever. I don't think God intends that for you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. God definitely doesn't intend that. And I think there's also ways that people can participate in setting boundaries, right? So the first thing is to recognize if someone in your life is like hurting you or just being just like toxic or has toxic behavior. It's definitely important to recognize that. And if you have been affected by it, know that some healing on your part has to take place to like be healed from that toxic behavior. And if during that time while you're healing, you need to separate a little bit from the person so that you can like fully heal and like become whole, then I think that's okay. And then it's knowing about where do you want the relationship to go, right? Because I know many people who will just see their parents on holidays, you know, or can only do phone calls with their parents or can only stand their parents for just a little bit of time.
Just a little sprinkle, not too much.
Exactly. And then, you know, this is because of the dynamic that the parent has with the child, you know. It's just not a healthy relationship. And so there are ways to set boundaries, but if it comes to a point where I think someone feels like this is just not something that either is changing or it is like so harming that
So consuming.
yeah, that it's
right?
just like better to like cut off, then I think that that decision is really up to the person because every situation is different. But just know you don't have to rush to cut off people,
Right.
right? And you don't have to feel pressured to keep everybody in your life either. But there is a balance that must come with that, and someone has to be able to make an informed decision about that because it is often not easy to say that you're going to cut family off.
Right.
You know, and
especially parents. 'Cause,
Exactly.
I'm not sure at what life stage our listener is in, but
Right.
especially as you get older and some people are dealing with the care of adult parents and
Yeah.
adult relatives, it's cutting them off is more than just I'm not talking to you.
Right.
It's this person may need my support, whether it's financial support,
Right.
whatever, and medically may not be able to care for themselves.
Right.
And so how do you reconcile with yourself
Right.
cutting off someone
Right.
that is looking to you in that way? And this is not me putting any judgment
No.
of yay or nay, but it is something to consider. Like it complexifies the idea of
Absolutely.
cutting them off.
And even more complexity is when it comes to, your own children, potentially not meeting their, grandparent. That's a big thing too. With the value that is placed like on grandparents, right? And the ability for kids to have that as they grow up. So it's not an easy decision, and it's something that requires a lot of care. But just know that doesn't have to be the first option.
Right.
But if that is your option, then you're the one who has to be okay with it.
Right. You deserve wholeness.
Exactly.
You deserve love, wellness, to live a life without abuse.
Exactly.
Even if it's your parent. Not even your parent
Right.
has the right to abuse you.
Exactly.
Especially not your parent, So, yeah.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk on God Talk. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Real Talk on God Talk, Twitter, Real Talk on God T, the number 1.
We're trying to get into this Twitter thing, y'all. It's hard. For
Y'all need to
any
help
of you
us.
who have a large following, like, what are we supposed to talk about on Twitter?
For real.
Like, what do you want to hear us talk about? Because I don't know.
Yeah, shoot us some questions and
give
we
us
can start
something.
answering. We need something. We
need some help. We need your help.
Yeah, exactly, because we are just not avid Twitter users, but we are definitely on the Instagram.
Right. We're on the Instagram.
We're on
Thank you, Grandma
exactly.
Truth. We're on the Instagram.
Exactly. I'm on that IG thing. But definitely make sure you give us a follow, give us a listen, and then refer our podcast to a friend that hasn't heard about us. Thank you to all of our listeners all over the world.
Yes.
We really appreciate all of y'all tuning in, and slide in our DMs. Tell us where you're listening from. We always love to hear from all of y'all.
Basically, it's your girl, y'all. Saying goodbye.
That's it. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
I don't believe in God. I know God.
I love me some Jesus.
You're doing too much.
That's crazy. That's on the next episode.
It's the moon reading.
I rock with you, Yaya.
It's all love.
They better listen to this advice. We good.
You crazy girl.
This is what this show is about, all right? We
With
keep
the
it real.
real and real talk, the God in God talk.
And that's a wrap.